الله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد فقد قال الله عز وجل قل هو الله أحد آمنت بالله صدق الله العظيم وبلغنا رسوله النبي الكريم الأمين ونحن على ذلك لمن الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين أما بعد فقد قال الله عز وجل في شأن حبيبه صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم مخبرا وآمرا إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم وصل عليه الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا حبيب الله الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رحمة للعالمين وعلى آلك وأصحابك وسلم عليك يا شفيع المذنبين. Today, the second lecture which we have on the Fiqh Al-Akbar of Imam Al-Azam Abu Hanifa radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, and the first lecture which we had in which we discussed the life and the works of Imam Al-Azam and the importance of our aqaid and how important it is for a Muslim to study about Aqida, about our beliefs and what we must believe in as a Muslim. Now moving on to the second lecture, which we will actually begin the text of the Fiqh Al-Akbar of Imam Al-Azam Abu Hanifa radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And the brothers here have prepared for you a small sheet which have got some common terminologies which you will hear throughout the lectures every month, some common words and phrases which will be coming. And for those of you who are not familiar with any of the common words, there may be some other words which have not been written here, but as you go along, if you feel that there is any word or term or phrase which you do not understand, then you're most welcome to ask what that means, and then you can make a note of that at the front or at the back. So whenever a time comes throughout the lectures, and by the time at the end, you will be familiar with all these terms as you go along. The first word at the top, if we refer to this sheet, which is called the common terminologies, Aqida, this is what we are all here to study, which is the Islamic beliefs, our theology, the study of our beliefs. Fiqh is the Islamic law. Reason why fiqh is brought here, though we are not studying fiqh, but because the big book that we are studying is called Fiqh Al-Akbar, and because it is written by Imam Al-Azam Abu Hanifa radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, who is the Imam of all the fuqaha in this ummah after the companions. Therefore, this meaning of fiqh is also explained there. Then we have the word mujtahid. This is a word which I was using very commonly last lecture. A mujtahid, here how it's written, is a jurist who was qualified to interpret the law such as the four imams of the Ahlul Sunnah. So, the mujtahid, a person who is a mujtahid, he is somebody who has, from the Quran and Sunnah, explained and extracted the law for us to follow today. And in particular, for example, a issue which has not been clearly explained in the Quran and Sunnah. So an issue which you cannot see in the Quran and Sunnah, something which has been given to us quite literally, explicitly, then an imam or somebody has to give a ruling on that. And the imams, these four imams, these mujtahideen that we are talking about here, they were given this ability to give a ruling on such an issue. And there are many ranks. You have the mujtahideen fil deen. Mujtahideen fil deen, those who were the jurists who were qualified to interpret the law to us. These were mainly four, which are known as the Aimai Arba'ah, the four imams: Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and Imam Malik radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. These were the four mujtahids. Yeah, the four main mujtahids of the Ahlul Sunnah. Then you have mujtahideen fil madhab, mujtahideen fil masail, ashab al-takhrij, ashab al-tarjih, and so on and so forth. And then we come down to muqallid. What we are muqallid. Muqallid is somebody who follows one of the four mazhabs or four imams. That is a muqallid. Madhab, the way to live your practical life according to Islam, i.e. the four schools of thoughts, the Hanafi, Shafi'i, Maliki, and Hanbali. Madhab literally means a way to go. Here means the way to live your practical life. So meaning, if someone was to ask you, how do you pray your namaz, your salah, how do you pray your salah? How do you fast? How do you give zakat? How do you do hajj? How do you perform nikah? How do you form divorce? many different practicalities of our life, where do we refer back to? The madhab which we follow. And in that madhab we are taught how to live our practical life on a day-to-day basis, even when it comes to the 5 pillars of Islam or any other practical thing which we do in our life, how to perform that. Madhab teaches you the way of how to go about that. Then another word here which is used are the Ash'aris and Maturidis, and the definition here is the 2 schools of theology of the Ahl Sunnah. The 2 schools of theology, like I mentioned last time, we have Imam Abu Mansur Maturidi and Imam Abu Hassan Ash'ari. These 2 are the Imams, the leaders of the Ahl Sunnah, who have explained to us theology, the Aqida which we follow. And in their times they were faced with many fitnas, many different trials and tribulations, which they had overcame and taught to us and explained to us what should be the Aqida of the Ahl Sunnah wal Jamaat. Then you have the word Udruriyatud Deen, the necessary requirements a Muslim must believe in. The Udruriyatud Deen, like mentioned there, are those aspects of our religion which every Muslim must believe in order for him to be a Muslim or a believer. To deny any one of them, a person falls out of the fold of Islam. And these, all the necessities of our religion, these are all proven from the Quran or the Hadith Mutawatir. So therefore, to deny any, for example now, if somebody were to say, I believe in Allah, I believe in all the angels, I believe in all the books, I believe in the Day of Judgment, I believe in the grave, I believe in hell, I believe in heaven, I believe in life after death, I believe in destiny, I believe in everything, but I don't believe that Musa alayhi salam is the Prophet of Allah. I believe the Prophet is the Prophet of Allah. I believe everything, but I deny Musa alayhi salam. To deny Musa alayhi salam, even Musa alayhi salam or the Isa alayhi salam, or somebody says I don't believe in the angel Jibreel, or somebody says I don't believe in the Torah, original Torah which was revealed to Musa alayhi salam. To deny anyone, a person becomes at the fall of Islam. Therefore, the Dururiyatud Deen, the necessities of our religion, is that every person must believe in every single one of them. And them all combined together makes a person a believer. That is the Ahl Sunnah wal Jamaat. Usul are the principles of our religion, or origin. Asal literally means an origin. Usul are the principles. So again, when we say Dururiyatud Deen, sometimes we use the phrase Usul Deen, the principles of our religion. Again, this is something which every Muslim must believe in. Then we have the word Tawheed, which we will be studying today, which is the first chapter which any Aqida book speaks about. Tawheed is believing in the oneness of Allah, monotheism. So what Tawheed is, we will speak about today in more detail, and which is the pinnacle, the focal point, the starting point of our deen, of every Muslim, of every believer, from day one till today, from the beginning of creation till now. The focal and center point of our deen has been Tawheed, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's what we will be studying today inshallah and in the forthcoming lectures. Then we have Nabuwa and Risala. This is prophethood. So Nabuwat is prophethood and Risalat is messengership. So a Nabi will only be a Nabi, a prophet of Allah, when Nabuwat has been given to him, when he has given prophethood. And a Rasul, he becomes a Rasul when he has been given Risalat, messengership. The difference between the two, that will also be explained as well in the coming lectures, and slightly will be touched upon today as well. But as long as you know the terminology. Then we have the word Malaika. Malaika is the Arabic word, the plural for angels, the angels. Again, another point which we have to believe in. Sahaba are the companions of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sahaba. Reason why Sahaba and Tabi'een we have here, the generation after the companions, and Taba Tabi'een, the generation after the Tabi'een. The reason why these three have been mentioned, because our sources of our deen include the Quran, Sunnah, the teachings of the companions, Tabi'een and Taba Tabi'een. Because the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Khairul Quruni Qarni, the best of times is my time. The time of the Prophet was the time of the companions, and the time after that, and the time after that. So I mean the best 3 generations was the generation of the companions, which was obviously evolved around the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The second best generation was the generation of those who came after the companions, who never saw the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but they studied and learned from the companions. Amongst them was Imam Abu Hanifa radiyallahu ta'ala an. And then the following generation was the Taba Tabi'een. That is the third best generation. So the reason why these three have been mentioned is for that reason. And what makes a Sahaba, Tabi'in, Taba Tabi'in, you know this, that somebody who has in the state of Iman, state of belief, seen the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam with his eyes, and he dies in that state of Iman, then he is known as a companion. Somebody who has seen the companion state of Iman, he is a Tabi'in, and vice versa, and so on and so forth. So these are the basic terminologies which you will be hearing throughout the lectures. If you feel any word has come up which you are not aware of, it's best to ask. So just either write it down so you remember, or put your hand up and ask however you want, and then we will come back to that, and then you can make a note of that. So in the future, that sticks with you all the way through. This you should keep with you all the way through, so you can remember the words and you can refer back if there's any word that you are not aware of. Okay, so now we will be starting the fundamentals of our deen in relation to the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the first chapter which Imam Al-Azhar radiyallahu ta'ala has brought up, which is in relation to Tawheed, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is what we will be speaking about and studying now inshallah. So Imam Sahib mentions here, أصل التوحيد وما يصح الاعتقاد عليه يجب أن يقول آمنت بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله والبعث بعد الموت والقدر خيره وشره من الله تعالى والحساب والميزان والجنة والنار وذلك كله حق. This is the first point and first extract of Fiqh Al-Akbar which Imam Sahib has mentioned, and in simple words I will explain to you, and you write and make your notes as how you feel best for yourself in relation to how Imam Sahib has defined the teachings of Tawheed and what we must believe in. In the first point they mentioned, أصل التوحيد وما يصح الاعتقاد عليه يجب أن يقول, that the fundamentals of divine oneness, so the fundamentals, the core issues in relation to the oneness of Allah Almighty, upon which it is correct for you to base your belief. So those fundamentals in relation to the oneness of Allah, which it is correct for you to base your belief upon. So what are them fundamentals that we must base our belief upon? So this is what the first sort of headlining chapter or headlining point, subchapter of this point here, of this paragraph, which we will be dwelling into. So those things which a person must believe in are what? And what must he say? Yajibu an yaqula. It is necessary for him to say. Yajibu, it is necessary an yaqula, for him to say. For him to say what? What is it necessary for him to say? Amantu billah. I believe in Allah. So this is the first fundamental of our religion, is what? To believe in Allah. So when you hear, you see the articles of faith, the core points of our faith. The first one is Amantu billah. We must say that I believe in Allah. I believe in Allah. That's the first point. Wa malaikatihi. And the second thing we must believe in is the angels. Malaika. Number two is the angels. Number three, wa kutubihi, and to believe in all the divine books. To believe in all the divine books. So first is Allah. Number two are all His angels. Number three are all the divine books. Wa rusulihi, and to believe in all His messengers / prophets. To believe in all His messengers and prophets. Wal ba'thi ba'd al maut, and rising after death, or life after death is the next one. Wal-Qadri, destiny, to believe in destiny. Each one of these I will explain to you after I've mentioned all the articles to you. So destiny, then khayrihi wa sharrihi min Allah ta'ala, that all good and bad comes from Allah. All good and bad comes from Allah. Wal-Hisab, Hisab is reckoning. So on the day of judgment, when your good and bad deeds will be calculated, that reckoning is called Hisab. This is something else we must believe in. Wal Mizan, Mizan is the scale which our deeds will be measured upon. That scale is called Mizan. that is necessary to believe in. Wal Jannati, and to believe in paradise. That is the next one, to believe in paradise. Wan Nar, and to believe in the hellfire. That's the next one. Wa dhalika kulluhu haqqun, and to believe in that all these are true. And to believe that all these are true. So these points I have mentioned to you now, this Imam Sahib is mentioning here that what is the core fundamentals that a person must base his belief upon in order for him to be regarded as a believer. And when we read the sifat of our Iman Mufassal, that is, we see that all the time as well, Iman Mufassal, which we read, Amantu billahi wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi wa rasulihi wal yawmil akhiri wa qadri khairihi wa sharrihi min Allahi ta'ala wal ba'd ba'd al-maut. This, when we read and we learn, this is actually the articles of our faith. So these points which I mentioned to you now, these are the articles of our faith which we must believe in. Now the first point which is said we have to believe in is we must believe in Allah. To believe in Allah. Now it is easy to say we all believe in Allah, and of course our whole deen is evolved around believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what and how should we believe in Allah? What are our rights towards Allah? How should we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And how should we believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be? Though we cannot comprehend that what Allah is, how Allah is, no one can reach that level of intellect to even comprehend what is the reality of Allah. But from what we have been told and what are the necessities for us to believe in Allah, that is what I will mention to you now. So the first article of our faith is Allah. So now we will be elaborating on what and how we should believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So first thing is, as is mentioned, now what I'll be doing, because I'll be mentioning to you with Imam Abu Hanifa's Fiqh Al-Akbar is our main text which we will be following, but along with this we have the Sharaf Mullah Al-Qari, how he mentions his, and other Aima have given their explanation on this book. And in relation to the oneness of Allah, Tawheed, Imam Ajuri wrote a Risala as well upon this. So I'll be touching up and bringing points in from different texts to compile them together to give you your information, inshallah. So it is mentioned here about in relation to what a person, it is obligatory upon a person to believe in relation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first is wujud. Number one is wujud. So this is the first attribute or first aspect which we must believe in relation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is wujud. Wujud means existence. Wujud means existence. Existence, how? That Allah always was and He always will be. That's what we mean by existence. That Allah exists now and Allah always existed and He always will exist. This is wujud. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists. And once I give you this, I'll mention to you the opposite of this, opposite of each word as well, that we believe in Allah. What are the opposite to this? The opposite to wujud is Adam. Adam means non-existent. So how Allah is, we believe in the wujud, the existence of Allah. Just like this, the opposite to this is Adam. So what Allah isn't is Adam, or what Allah is wujud. So we believe in the wujud of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number two is qidam. Qidam means pre-existent or infinite. Infinite would be the best word. Infinite meaning that there was no beginning point for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like for example, now this glass of water, we cannot say that this is qadim. Qadimun bila ibtida. That is what we use for Allah. Qadimun bila ibtida. Meaning that he was always there without any beginning. For this, we cannot say this was always there because he had a point where it began from. Something formed for this to be made. Whereas Allah is qadimun bila ibtida, we must believe in the qidam, which means Allah was always there without a beginning point. Without a beginning point. That's number two. And this is known as qidam. And obviously the opposite to this is, we have Allah is qadim, qidam, then we have huduth. Huduth is where something which is contingent. it has a beginning and an end. Whereas Allah's is, He was there without a beginning. Then we have number 3, which is baqa. We have wujud, qidam, and then number 3 is baqa. He will always be there without an end. Baqa means he'll be baqi. We say ya baqi. One of the attributes of Allah, from the asma of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asma mubarakah, is baqi, which means always will be there. That Allah will always be there without an end. That there will be no end to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like that there is no beginning to Allah, He was there qadimun bila ibtida, that He was there without a beginning. Baqa means He will always remain there. There is no end for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the next point. Number 4, mukhalafa lil hawadith. Mukhalafa lil hawadith. Mukhalafa lil hawadith. Mukhalafa lil hawadith. This means Allah is the opposite to any contingent things. So Allah is the opposite to any contingent things. What means by contingent? In other words, here, contingent is something which has been created and can have an end, which has a beginning and an end. That is something which is contingent. Allah is in opposite to anything which is contingent. How? Contingent, for example, me, you, we are contingent. We were born, we had a beginning, and one day we will die, we will be destroyed, we will have an end. Now Allah, anything which we have, Allah does not have. Like for example, Allah does not have eyes, physical eyes like we do. Because why? The eyes we have, they had a beginning, they will have an end. The mouth we have, the ears we have, the hands we have, the legs we have, the feet we have, these are all contingent. They have beginning, they will have an end. Where Allah does not have any sort of quality that any of His creation which is contingent has. Why? Where in the Quran Allah has used the words such as the hand of Allah, yadullah, as mentioned in the Quran, the hand of Allah, wajhullah, the face of Allah. This does not refer literally. How some people take the meaning literally, as we see the people of today, the pseudo-Salafi people, they have this belief that their God has a physical aspect, that He has physical aspects, He is physical. They believe literally they believe that Allah has fingers, literally they believe Allah has a face, literally they believe Allah has feet, Allah has hands, Allah has other attributes, or a leg or a shin. They believe it literally. Then we see the works of Ibn Taymiyyah, where he has mentioned that Allah, the throne has been created just at the right size for Allah to sit on. So like this, beliefs like this. Or the belief that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the 6 directions we have, the taht and fawq, the top and bottom, above, underneath, and the yameen and yasar, the left and right, and khalf and imam, behind and front, that these 6 directions which we refer to, left, right, front, back, up, down, that we believe that Allah is free from these 6 directions, whereas they believe that Allah is bound by these 6. Bound. Why? Because if Allah is sitting on something which is to His size, then Allah has a size, mazallah, astaghfirullah. Then they believe that Allah places His foot upon His throne, upon His chair, which He will put His foot, the arsh, where He will rest His foot on. So these beliefs go all against the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They go against the Tawheed. So before we move on to any other subject, the people, we need to guide these people upon the issue of Tawheed, upon the real monotheism, which they speak about, but their belief in relation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is incorrect. Our belief is what? Mukhalafa lil hawadith, that Allah cannot be, like the Quran mentioned, laysa ka misli shay, that nothing can be compared to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we cannot compare any of Allah's creation or any attributes of Allah's creation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So, like people who believe in that Allah has body parts, they tend to argue that in the Quran Allah mentions hands. Like, how can you explain that?
In the Quran we see we have if these people study the sciences of the Quran, there's something called where Allah uses words in the Holy Quran. Then some words are haqiqat and some are majaz. Some are used in the literal sense, some are used metaphorically. For example, now, if I was to say that so-and-so person's face is shining like the sun, that does not mean that his face is the sun. Or for example, now for Allah, for Hazrat Mawla Ali mentioned Asadullah, the lion of Allah. Does that mean that Hazrat Ali is literally a lion, or he had big hair, looked like a lion? Or Hazrat Khalid bin Walid was known as Saifullah, the sword of Allah? Does that mean Hazrat Khalid bin Walid was a sword of Allah? Literally, was he a sword? No. This refers to certain aspects. When Allah uses the words hand, this is for us to explain to us. When Allah is saying, for example, now, Tabarakallazi biyadihil mulk. All glory is to that Lord, to Allah, in whose hand is the all of kingdoms. Everything is in the hand of Allah. Now, when we say, for example, in common terms, we say that I have so much control that this control is in my hand. This does not literally mean that that person is in your hand, but it shows your power over that person. So when Allah is using the word hand or such terminologies, He's using it in a metaphorical way to make us understand the power of Allah. Because the literal zat of Allah, we cannot comprehend that. But to make us understand, Allah uses such phrases which will be common amongst us. Urf, common amongst us. So He uses them phrases for us to understand as well, that what is the power of Allah. When Allah says that in my eye, nothing is hidden from my eyes, that does not mean that He has eyes like us where we can see from, and because our eyes, we need to sleep for them to rest. We need to have light for us to see whatever we want to see with these eyes. They are bound by certain things, they need certain things. Whereas Allah is the all-seeing, He is the all-hearing. These things do not apply to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But where He uses these phrases, these are only because the Quran is what? It is a book of guidance. To guide who? Me and you. Now if Allah wants to guide us, He must use those phrases for us to understand our deen and to understand these things. So if Allah was to use other terminologies which are out of our intellect, out of our common sense, then what sort of guidance would the Quran be? Therefore Allah used these phrases to make us understand. Where Allah uses these phrases, hand, face, or eyes, or ears of Allah, hand of Allah, face of Allah, things like this does not literally refer to that. Like we see in the hadith of the Sahih of Imam Bukhari, narrated by Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, where the Messenger said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to me, in the hadith Qudsi, Man aadali waliyan faqad aadhantuhu bil harbi, that when a person becomes a friend of Allah, what is his rank? That whoever has enmity with that person, Allah declares war against that person. Why? Because when he becomes so close to Allah, the eyes which he sees, they become the eyes of Allah. The hands which he strikes, they become the hands of Allah. The feet with which he walks, they become the feet of Allah. The tongue with which he speaks becomes the tongue of Allah. Does that literally mean that his hands become the hands of Allah? Ma'azallah. Means Allah has injected His power into them hands, into them eyes, into that mouth, into them feet. So we take not the literal meaning, we can't take the literal meaning here. So therefore, these people who take the literal meaning of the Quran, they need to look again, because the Quran also mentions Surah Rahman, that on that day, everything will be destroyed except His face. The wajh of Allah will be there, but everything else will be destroyed. This is what the literal meaning of the Quran says. Does that mean that every other aspect of Allah's body will be destroyed apart from His face? Mazallah. So can't be taken as the literal meaning. Same as these people, how they take the literal meaning here, this is what has made them misguided. Because of this reason. They do not look at the ahadith, they do not look at the teachings of the Sahaba, of the Tabi'een, the Taba Tabi'een, and of other Imams of the Ahlul Sunnah. They look at the Quran, they take its literal meaning, and say, this is what we believe. To the extent that they believe that Allah has a physical body.
So, which one is literal, which one is metaphor, majaz and haqiqat?
Majaz is metaphorical, and haqiqat is the literal meaning. So, this is what has made them misguided. These reasons, that they become so misguided because they take the literal meaning of everything, and just look at how they take it. They look at it, how they look, that's how they take it, without the teachings of anything else. And that's why they have become. And whereas it comes to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there they try to look for other angles. Like for example, in the month of Rajab, the journey of Asra and Mi'raj, where we say, the Quran says, Subhanalladhi asra bi abdihi laylan min al-masjid al-harami ila al-masjid al-aqsa. That Allah, the most glorified, who took his special servant upon a journey through the night from Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa. Then he took him to the heavens. Then he went with his physical eyes, he saw Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He spoke with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he returned. Now to this they would say that how is this possible? How is it possible? So then they look for other angles, that this was a dream, this was spiritual. But how Allah has mentioned in the Quran that Allah took his servant upon this journey, why don't you look at it literally there? Why do you look for angles there when it comes to the Messenger? But to make your own belief correct, there you look for other things. So therefore, this their way of deriving and taking out things from our sources, this is what has made them misguided.
So you know when the Laylat al-Miraj, when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam went to Masjid al-Aqsa and ascended to the heavens, there isn't anything to suggest that it was a dream or she wasn't.
See, they use one narration in the Sahih of Imam Bukhari where as the Aisha Siddiqa radiyallahu ta'ala anha, where she mentions that the Mi'raj of the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam at that time, the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did not move from his bed. As she was the wife of the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he did not move from the bed. So what they take from this is that this means obviously that the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his Mi'raj was a dream, because if it was physical, then of course he had moved from his bed. But again, they don't look at the science behind the hadith. Number one, that this Mi'raj, this journey of the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam took place when the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was in Makkah. As the Aisha Siddiqa radiyallahu ta'ala anha came to the house of the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam as a wife when he was in Medina. So this journey does not, as the Aisha is mentioning in this hadith, does not refer to that journey. As the Shah waliyallah Muhaddis Dehlvi rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi and Shah Abdul Haq Muhaddis Dehlvi rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi were the two Imams of the Ahl Sunnah and Hadith in the whole of the subcontinent. They mention that the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam throughout his life had over 300 Mi'rajs, and 299 of them approximately were spiritual or as dream. But the one where the Quran mentions here was physical. So as the Aisha in that hadith is referring to one of the spiritual Mi'raj, but the one Allah is mentioning in the Quran refers to a physical Mi'raj. So this is the difference, how they look and try to, and for a normal person, there's look as the Aisha is saying this, so we must believe in this. So to misguide people, the layman, to misguide the common person, they would use these sort of tricks. But alhamdulillah, for everything that they throw at us, we have an explanation from the Quran and Sunnah to counter that. And we believe that the journey of Isra, which is mentioned in the opening verse of the 15th chapter, Subhanalladhi Asra bi Abdihi, this refers to the journey from Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa, which was physical. And then later on where the Quran mentions where the Prophet ﷺ went from Masjid al-Aqsa to the heavens and he saw Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with his physical eyes, that journey was also physical as well. That there can't be any sort of change here that this was spiritual or this was a dream. This is not possible. This was a physical journey which took place from Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa, from Masjid al-Aqsa to the heavens, and to this extent that we also believe that the Salah which took place in Masjid al-Aqsa, where all the Anbiya came as well, that journey, that prayer which took place in Masjid al-Aqsa was also physical as well. And all the Anbiya which gathered in that prayer, they came in their physical form. They came in their physical form to show that we regard the Messenger to be our Imam, to be the leader of all us prophets. Then later, where the Messenger traveled to the heavens and where he saw Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the hadith in Sahih Muslim mentions, رَأَيْتُ رَبِّي فِي أَحْسَنِ سُورَةٍ, that I saw my Lord in the best possible way. So some deny this, like the Rawafid, they deny the seeing of the Lord. The Rawafid,
which Rawafid?
The Shias. The Rafizis, the Rawafid, the Shias, which are most commonly known as, they deny the seeing of the Lord, that it is the ru'ya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not possible. Whereas the Wahhabiyya, the pseudo-Salafi, the Khawarij is the term, which is the literal term used for the Wahhabiyya or the pseudo-Salafi people. What they call themselves is that, what the literal word for them, which is mentioned in the hadith for these people, are the Khawarij. Because the word Khawarij means those who have exited, that through the beliefs that they have, they exit themselves from the Ahl Sunnah. The Khawarij believe that the Messenger ﷺ did not see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his physical way. This is their belief, because they regard it to be a dream, they regard it to be spiritual. Whereas our belief is what Allah, the Prophet said, Ra'aytu. Ra'aytu is a siga which is for mutakallim. I saw. Ra'aytu Rabbi, I saw my Lord in the best possible way. I saw him in the best possible way. And further on, the hadith mentions that the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed the hand of his power. So again, not physical hand, the hand of his power upon my back, between my two shoulders. The hadith states that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed the hand of his power in between the shoulders of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And as a result, what happened? The Messenger replied that as a result, I felt a coolness in my chest. Now we look back to the point of Musa alayhi salam, when Musa alayhi salam said, Ya Allah, I want to see you. And Allah replied, Lan tarani, you will never be able to see me. Then Musa insisted, and Allah said, go stand and look at that mountain. And I will place one glimpse of my shan upon that mountain, and you see as a result. And when the Quran says, when Allah placed one glimpse of his light upon that mountain, and what happened as a result? That the whole mountain became to dust. The whole mountain became to dust. So we see that Musa alayhi salam fainted as a result as well. The Quran states that Musa alayhi salam fainted, the mountain became to dust. Now here Allah is placing the hand of his power upon the back of the Messenger. If you want to speak on the phone, hello? You want to speak on the phone, go outside. There's something going on, it's shameful to stand like that. So now the Messenger, the whole hand of Allah's mercy, power was placed upon the back of the Messenger, and as a result, the Prophet felt coolness in his chest. Musa alayhi salam was shown one glimpse of Allah on the mountain, the whole mountain became to dust. Musa alayhi salam fainted. Imam Badruddin Aini mentions here that what was the reason behind this? What was the secret behind this? That a whole hand of Allah and the Prophet feels coolness in his chest. One glimpse of Allah's light and Musa alayhi salam faints. The mountain became to dust. This shows that a bashar, someone who is made from dust, he cannot handle Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But because the Prophet was created from Nur, he handled the Nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This Imam Badruddin Aini, who alhamdulillah is buried in Misr, and I have been to his Mazar Mubarak in Misr as well, in Cairo in Egypt, behind Al-Azhar University. Imam Badruddin Aini and Imam Qastalani are buried together. Two graves there in Misr behind Al-Azhar University, where the front part of Al-Azhar University, where Imam Salahuddin Ayyubi used to stand and give lecture to his soldiers. Just behind there are the graves of these two Imams. And other Imams like Imam Ibn Hajar Asqalani, who wrote Fathul Bari, Sharh Sahih Bukhari, his grave is also in Cairo. Imam Badruddin Aini, who wrote Umdatul Qari, his is also in Cairo in Egypt. And they mentioned this. Now another point here, though we are a bit diverting off, but again this comes back to Tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Imam Razi and other Imams have written, when Musa alayhi salam saw that one glimpse, so that glimpse was not revealed upon the eyes of Musa, it was revealed on the mountain. But he saw that flash and he fainted as well. So he never even saw with tahammul, he just saw like that as a glimpse and he fainted. As a result, what happened? That on a dark night, from 30 miles away, a ant, black ant, on a black stone, in a dark night, 30 miles away, Musa alayhi salam could see that ant. That from one glimpse of that flash of Allah's light, from 30 miles away on a dark night, they could see a dark ant on a dark stone. So can we see how power came into the eyes of Musa alayhi salam after seeing that one glimpse of Allah's light? So now we say that if Musa alayhi salam, after seeing one glimpse, his power became so much, then that Nabi who says, with my eyes I saw my Lord in the best possible way, what would be the power of the seeing of the Messenger? We cannot comprehend this. So again, taking the literal meanings of things all the time, this can lead a person to misguidance as well. And we see the Mu'tazila and the people of the past, like the Mu'tazila which I explained last time, those who looked only at logic and philosophical people, this one made them exit out of the fold of Islam even, because they should look at these things, the Qadriya, the Jahmiya, the Jabriya. These are some reasons why these people became exited out of the Ahl Sunnah. Coming back to the point which we talked about, the Mukhalafa lil Hawadith, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is opposite to anything which is contingent. So in His creation, any quality which is contingent, Allah is opposite to that. The next point is qiyam bil nafs. Qiyam bil nafs. This is the next, number 5.
Just a question back on the previous point. You know, when they explain, the people explain to us that stuff like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's got like hands and stuff like that. So how do we get the understanding and the proofs to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the opposite to all contingent things?
No, because first point is this, that like I mentioned to you, that why Allah has used these terms in the Quran is to make us understand. Now when we use what is the opposite of Tawheed? Shirk. Shirk is what to compare to Allah. So when we say Allah's hand is like our hand, is not a comparison. So that in itself goes against the fundamentals of Tawheed. That Allah is not comparable to His creation in any way or form, especially on those aspects which are contingent. Then when we say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His attributes which He has used as the hand of Allah is only to make us understand. For example, now the literal meaning is taken when we say that Tabarakallah bi yadihi al-mulk in the first chapter of Surah, first verse of Surah Mulk, chapter number 29, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said that in His hand, in the hand of Allah, is all power, is all kingdom. Does that literally mean that Allah has grabbed us in His hand? No. It cannot mean that Allah has literally grabbed us in His hand. If it literally mean they have to take it everywhere. Does that mean literally Allah has grabbed us in His hand like this? No. So therefore, this does not make sense that everything should be taken literally, because this is what causes misguidance. For us, what we believe, that Allah has used any sort of phrase, it is to explain to us. It is a form of guidance for us. And that is the belief that we take as Ahlul Sunnah. And this, what I am mentioning to you, these points, Imam Abu Hanifa, do the people of today understand Aqida more than Imam Abu Hanifa? Do they understand Tawheed more than Imam Sahib did, who studied directly from the companions? They're telling us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be compared in any way or form, and is completely opposite to anything which is contingent. And that's the final stop. That's number 5. That's number 4. Number 5 is qiyam bin nafs, which means, in simple words, self-established. Self-established. What I mean by this is, self-established means that he is not dependent upon anything. He is not dependent upon anything. For example, now I am sitting, but for me to sit, I'm dependent upon a chair. So I am not self-established. At this moment, I'm established with the help of this chair. You are established, you are writing upon a paper with the help of that table. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is self-established. Whatever He does, however He does, where He does not dependent upon anything at all. That is the belief which we have. And this again, the Salafis, they go against this because they believe Allah has created the throne for Him to sit on His throne, literally. So that means Allah is dependent upon the throne to sit. He has created the arsh to rest His feet upon. Does that mean Allah is dependent upon that to rest His feet? You see what I mean? So these go against the fundamentals of our deen, the fundamental core and fundamental beliefs which are towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This goes against that. So this is the next thing which we believe in relation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is qiyam bin nafs, self-establishment. Number 6 is wahdaniyya. Wahdaniyya. And this is oneness. Oneness. Literally, wahdaniyya means oneness. Oneness in what sense? Oneness in essence. Oneness in essence. This means, essence means numerically. So like 1, does it mean number 1? So number 1 can be half of 2. It can be a third of 3. It can be a quarter of 4. In this sense, there's no. Allah is oneness in essence. And I'll explain this more when we come back to the points. Oneness in attributes and oneness in actions. Oneness in essence, attributes and actions. We believe wahdaniyya in that sense. Number 7 is qudra. Qudra. Qudra, the most easiest word which you could use for this is which means omnipotence. if you write down the word omnipotence, and I'll give you a simple meaning as well. Omnipotence, the reason I'm giving you is because you can look these words up as well. And when those who study, like when you go to GCSE, you study RE, Islam, or in A levels, even at degree level, Islam, these are the words, the terminology used in referring to God, omnipotence. In other words, the most powerful. The most powerful. Most powerful and most capable as well. Listen to the word most capable. Like we see in the Quran, Allah says, Huwa al-Qadir. He is the Qadir. And Inna Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir. That Allah is powerful over everything. So meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not dependent upon anything to do His creation, to make His creation, to form anything, to do whatever He wishes. Fa'alul lima yurid. Whatever He intends, that's what happens. But He's not dependent upon anything for it to be made. He does not need anything to create anything. Kun fayakun, happen and it happens. So this again comes back to the qudra of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 8 is irada. Irada means, and which is a word which we use in Urdu as well. Irada means, and when it refers to Allah, it refers to divine will. Divine will. Divine will meaning that the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for Allah to have the divine will, this is something which we believe in, that whatever Allah wills, happens. Whatever Allah wills, happens. And what is, for example now, the opposite of this would be, for example, if somebody is forced to do something and he's doing it against his will. So for someone like us, we could do something against our will if we are forced. But whereas Allah, because nothing can compel or force Allah, whatever Allah does is according to His own will. Is according to His own will. Whether that means to give something to someone or take away from someone. So whether that means knowledge or ignorance, wealth or poverty, whatever situation Allah puts someone in, whatever Allah gives to anyone is according to His own will. Allah is not compelled or forced to make any decision, it is according to His own will.
So just a question, like, I've heard this a lot, like, as I was growing up, like, all good things come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and like bad things come from shaitan. Like, how do you explain that? Because it's not strictly true.
Like we said, like we mentioned in the earlier point, that khayrihi wa sharrihi min Allah ta'ala. The all good and bad is from Allah. Now I'm going to explain this to you again later on. And this was mentioned by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala and Hazrat Umar, they were having a sort of discussion amongst themselves. And as the Umar said that good and bad is from Allah, and Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq said good is from Allah alone, bad is from the person himself through the shaitan's attacks and so forth. They took this towards Allah, to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because obviously anything which the Sahaba did not know or they had confusion upon, the way that would be settled would be from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to them that Abu Bakr, the position which you are in is the position of Jibreel. And the position Umar that you are in, of Mikael. Jibreel. And the position Umar you are in is of Mikael. That Jibreel and Mikael also had this distinction amongst them. That Jibreel said that only good is from Allah. Mikael said good and bad is both from Allah. So they took this to Hazrat Israfil, another angel of Allah, and asked him for his decision. And Israfil said that all good and bad is from Allah. And I give that same decision to you, that all good and bad is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is from the hadith, the narration, that this is how it's mentioned that all good and bad comes from Allah. Now bad in the sense that what we assume to be bad, because nothing bad can be referred to Allah, can it? For example, now if somebody is in a state of poverty, now me and you look at it, we think, he's in a bad state. But at the same time, Allah has put him in that situation with some good and wisdom behind it. But that is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So our belief is that all good and bad is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and happens according to His will. That however He wills and wishes for something to happen, only can happen in that sense. Nothing can happen illa bima sha'a. Against His wish, nothing can happen. Not even a leaf can fall from a tree without the will and permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's our belief. Nothing can happen without that. So we say, like here we mentioned that Allah, everything is done according to His irada, according to His divine will. So if Allah wills, to make his Messenger ﷺ the Imam of all the Anbiya, that's happened according to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah has willed for his Nabi to be the Imam of intercession and shifa'ah on the Day of Judgment, that is from the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. If Allah has willed to give his Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam the knowledge of the seen, unseen, is according to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah wished his Nabi to go into his grave and still be alive, that is according to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah has made his Nabi in such a way that he can go to his grave and from thousands of miles away hear the durood and reply to the durood of his ummatis, that is according to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whatever happens is according to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the divine will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah is free from any compelling or any force. Whatever he does, فَعَالٌ لِمَا يُرِيد, whatever he intends, that is what goes and happens. So that's the next point which we must believe in, the irada, the divine will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 9 is ilm, knowledge. Number 9 is ilm, knowledge. Knowledge again is the opposite of ignorance. The opposite of ignorance. And Allah, when we refer to ilm, Allah has the knowledge of everything. This is an attribute that Allah's ilm is bizzat. Allah's ilm is within his essence. That whereas the ilm of other creation, for example, the knowledge you have, the knowledge I have, the knowledge anyone else has, this knowledge has been given to them. I studied from my teachers, you are studying from me, someone studied from you, and so on and so forth. This knowledge has been given. Even to the extent that the knowledge which the Messenger ﷺ possessed, that knowledge was also given. That knowledge was given, it is ata. Whereas the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that. That knowledge was never given. And that knowledge will never increase or decrease. The knowledge Allah has was there before creation. And Allah knew before his creation existed that this is what will exist. So all these attributes of Allah are pre-eternal. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge, he is the most knowledgeable, and he is the one who possesses all knowledge, and it is up to him who he gives the knowledge that the Quran mentions, فَلَا يُزْهِرُ عَلَى غَيْبِهِ أَحَدًا إِلَّا مَنِ ارْتَضَى مِنْ رُسُلٍ. That it is against the likeness of Allah to open, فَلَا يُظْهِرُ, to open up عَلَى غَيْبِهِ, upon his knowledge unseen. It is against the likeness of Allah to open up the unseen ahada, upon any one of you. It does not open his unseen upon anyone. Illa. Illa is huruf istisna. It comes for mustasna, to exempt something from the previous. So where the letter illa comes, whatever comes previous to that, this illa exempts something that will come after illa from before. That becomes mustasna minhu. So illa comes here, and Allah says, فَلَا يُظْهِرُ عَلَى غَيْبِهِ أَحَدًا. It is against Allah's likeness to open the unseen upon any one of you. Illa, except مَنِ ارْتَضَى مِنْ رُسُلٍ, except his chosen messengers. That whom his chosen messengers are, Allah opens the unseen upon them, and they are exempt from the first part of the ayat. That Allah does not open his unseen upon anyone. But whom he wishes to open it upon, Allah opens that upon them. But again, the knowledge which Allah has opened upon them is given by Allah, where Allah's knowledge itself is ungiven. Allah's knowledge is ungiven. It is in his essence. Allah was always the person who possessed that knowledge. Allah always possessed that knowledge, and Allah will always possess that knowledge. It will never increase, never decrease. But whereas the knowledge of his creation has a beginning, is contingent, it can have an end. And there are those who have knowledge who don't. But whatever knowledge is given to his creation is given by Allah. By Allah. Whereas Allah's knowledge itself is not given. It has no beginning and it has no end. That's the next point, number 9. Number 10 is Hayy.
So, just going back to the knowledge side. So, how do they contradict us, saying the Prophet ﷺ, like, when, the common argument about knowledge of the Prophet ﷺ. So, how can they, if they know Allah's knowledge it's not given, it's always been there, how can they compare the knowledge of Prophet ﷺ?
This is the common trick they use to misguide people, that they say Allah is the only one who knows the unseen. See, what they don't deny is knowledge. For example, now if they say Allah is the one who only keeps knowledge, then even me and you, we have nowhere to stand, do we? Because then if you have any knowledge, then that becomes a contradiction to that. What they deny is the knowledge of the unseen, what we cannot see. To the extent that Ismail Dehlavi wrote in his book, Sirat al-Mustaqim, that the Prophet ﷺ did not even know of what was behind him. To the extent. Now this completely contradicts against the Quran and Ahadith. What we believe is that the knowledge which Allah gave to His Messenger, amongst all of Allah's creation, whom Allah gave the most knowledge to was the Messenger ﷺ. And this is a core thing for us to believe. To deny this, you become out of the Ahl Sunnah. And Mufti Ahmad Yar Khan Naimi rahmatullahi ta'ala wrote a whole article upon this issue. And in the Muqaddamah of Ja al-Haq, you can see it there as well. That this is the dururiyat of the Ahl Sunnah, that a person who denies that the most knowledge of amongst Allah's creation was not given to the Messenger ﷺ, he is out of the Ahl Sunnah. Like for example, some people we see in Barahin al-Qati'ah, written by Khalil Ahmad Ambetri, who was a great Imam, according to them, great Imam of the Deoband. And in Fatawa Rashidiyah of Rashid Ahmad Gangohi, who placed the foundations of Dar al-Ulum Deoband, they write in there that the knowledge of the shaitan, of Iblis, was more than the Messenger ﷺ. That he had more knowledge than the Messenger ﷺ. Or the angel Jibreel had more knowledge than the Messenger ﷺ. These are misguided and innovative beliefs. Our beliefs are that the knowledge Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to His Messenger ﷺ was the most from amongst His creation. And how much Allah wanted to open upon His Messenger, how much Allah knows, how much Allah's Rasul ﷺ knows, we cannot say how much he knows. But this much we do know, that the Messenger ﷺ knows. Why? Because we've seen the hadith which is mentioned in the Sahih of Imam Bukhari and in Imam Muslim as well, with different wordings but very similar, where Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala mentions that the Messenger ﷺ, after the morning prayer, he stood upon his pulpit and he began to speak until Salatul Zuhr, and then he came off Fasalla and he prayed his Zuhr, then he continued till Asr, then he read his prayer, then he came back and he carried on until the sun had set. He continued, and the Umar replied and said that what did we learn that time? The Messenger told us of all the issues from the beginning of creation until the places of those people who will enter paradise and those who will enter the hellfire. All was taught to us by the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this was the maqam and martaba of the knowledge of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that whatever existed before him from the creation of Allah until the end of times was all given to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it's very simply a logical person can ask them that if the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not possess any knowledge of the unseen, all these signs of the Day of Judgment, who told us these signs? The Quran did not tell us every sign, that children will be disrespectful to their parents, that people will move away from Islam, tall lofty buildings will be created, where the sun will rise from a different angle, the Dajjal, the Yajuj Majuj, they are mentioned in the Quran, but how the Messenger explained to us of all these signs in detail, if he did not have knowledge of the Day of Judgment, how would he explain the signs to us? If somebody does not know where Manchester is, how can he direct somebody else there? How can he give signs to that person to get there? Only if somebody knows himself, he will give the signs to that place. The Messenger did know when the Day of Judgment will be. That's why he told them the signs. But he did not say when, because that was irrelevant. If we knew when the Day of Judgment would be, we would do why we want the life. When it comes near to the Day of Judgment, we do tawbah, ask for forgiveness, and say we'll be forgiven now. So that's why this was kept a secret. Same in Hadith Jibreel, where as Jibreel alayhi salam came to the Messenger and asked that when is the Day of Judgment, when is Sa'ah, when is the hour? And the Prophet replied that the one who is asking and the one who is being asked, they know the same. Jibreel knew as well, the Messenger knew as well. But that Prophet doesn't say, I do not know. Why? Because the companions were sitting there, that question was not to be answered in their presence. And afterwards when Jibreel went, and the Prophet asked Umar, Ya Umar, radiallahu ta'ala an, do you know who this person was? And as Umar replied, Ya Rasul, Allah and His Rasul know best. Wallahu wa Rasuluhu a'lam. Allah and His Rasul know best. And the Prophet replied, Huwa Jibreel. He was Jibreel. Ataakum yu'allimakum dinakum. He came to teach you your religion. This is the last part of the hadith, that he never came to me. Therefore, what to test me is a different. Don't no one come in the future and say that the Prophet did not know this or know this or know this. Because he did not come to test me. He came to you to teach you your religion. He came to you to teach you your religion. He never came to teach me, because I am the teacher of Jibreel, but Jibreel is your teacher as well. He came to teach you your religion. So therefore, we see that the Prophet ﷺ, the knowledge he knew, we do not know. But he only opened up that much which was relevant to the companions and relevant to us. That's why he opened up to us. How much the knowledge is amongst Allah's all creation, the one whom Allah gave the most knowledge to If you look go back to Hazrat Adam alayhi salam, where Adam alayhi salam was created, and what did Hazrat Adam alayhi salam be taught? وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ أَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. That Hazrat Adam alayhi salam was taught the names of everything. Kullaha, of everything. Not only what was present at that time, whatever will come. In this kull, everything means everything. That Allah taught Adam alayhi salam the names of everything. And as the Qadi Ayyad Maliki mentions that amongst these names which Allah taught, there was over 800,000 different languages. Over 800,000 different languages were taught to the Adam alayhi salam. ثُمَّ عَرَضَهُمْ إِلَى الْمَلَائِكَةِ. Then he was placed in front of the angels. Allah said, look, you were saying don't create somebody on earth, but look what I have created. I've created that Adam who knows the names of everything. And then the angel said, Ya Allah, why you know, we do not know. We are not compared to him. So when as the Adam alayhi salam's knowledge is more than the angels, what would be the maqam of the knowledge of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam? And when as the Adam alayhi salam was taught the names of everything, then what will be the knowledge of the Imam of Adam? Because in the general fiqh, when we study, the person who is the most knowledgeable, he should be given the first priority to stand on the musalla to lead the prayer. When the Prophet ﷺ led the prayer in Masjid al-Aqsa, all the Anbiya accepted that the one who is our Imam in terms of knowledge, in terms of greatness, in terms of every way or form, the one who is the greatest amongst us is Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So at that time, the knowledge and the maqam of the Prophet ﷺ was showed that not only is he the Imam of the Anbiya in sense of beauty, was even there Yusuf alayhi salam stood behind as well. Not only there Musa alayhi salam stood behind as well. Not only is he greater to us in beauty, not only is he greater to us in sense of the way that he is close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no, but in every way or form, even his knowledge is greater than us, therefore he must become our Imam. And he is our Imam, and Allah declared the Messenger to be the Imam of all his Anbiya. So this was clear in relation to the knowledge of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and there are numerous amount of ahadith and numerous amount of narrations and other ayat of the Holy Quran which show that the Prophet ﷺ did have knowledge of the unseen, but only that much knowledge which Allah gave to the Messenger ﷺ. Whereas Allah's knowledge, like I said, has no beginning, was never given, has no end, and has no limit. Whereas the Messenger's knowledge was given to him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 10, which you mentioned, was Hayy. Hayyun, he is alive, or living, alive. And obviously the opposite to this is maut, death. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is alive, always was alive, always will be alive, and is alive. That there is no any sort of belief there to believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was given life was given to him, like for us. We are alive now. We were alive now. 70 years ago when we were alive, we weren't alive. Those of us who are 30, 31 years ago, they weren't alive. Those who are 40, 50 years ago, they weren't alive as well. In 50 years time, maybe we won't be alive as well. One day our life will finish. Whereas Allah, his life and Allah's life was never given, whereas our life is given. Our life has a beginning, Allah's life has no beginning. Our life has an end, Allah's life has no end. So Allah is the all living, and always was and always is and always will be living. Next, number 11 is Sam wa Basar. Sam wa Basar. This means the all hearing and the all seeing. The all hearing and the all seeing. So again, Allah's these attributes of all seeing and all hearing were pre-eternal. That He was always all seeing and all hearing. When there was, Imam Sahib mentions further on, we see this, and in the Sharaf Mullah Liqali we see as well, that when there was nothing to see, Allah was all seeing. When there was nothing to hear, Allah was all hearing. Then these attributes do not come into form when creation was created, but even before creation, these attributes existed. That Allah was the all seeing and all hearing. So this is in relation to that. Number 12 is Kalam. And the next thing is Kalam. Kalam means divine speech. Divine speech. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala how he speaks. Now, how we say speaks, like how we speak, we have an alphabet, words, we learn the words, we speak. We can't explain, we can't use that to compare to Allah's speech. But we know Allah speaks. Why? Because the Quran says, Kallama Musa, that Allah spoke to Musa. Taklima. He spoke to Musa a lot. And Allah spoke to other prophets. Allah spoke. So Allah speaks. Allah, the speech of Allah, the kalam of Allah exists. Even the Quran is the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The kalamullah. Later on we'll go on to the next topic on whether the Quran was a creation or whether it was not a creation. These are different points, we'll come on to that. But the belief is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He had kalam. Yes.
Is that, I've heard some people say that think Allah could lie. Is that comes into this divine speech?
To believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can lie, a person becomes out of the fold of the Ahl Sunnah, even out of the fold of Islam. Because to believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can lie, when Allah in the Quran mentions la'natullahi al-Qadri, that Allah curses those who lie. So would Allah do an action Himself which He curses? Then we believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pure. Inna Allah tayyibun. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pure. And anything which is impure cannot be related to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Lying is a defect. Lying is a defect. Now if a defect is attributed towards our Lord, then that lowers, a Lord does not remain a Lord when a defect comes to Him. Secondly, if we believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lied, then how do we believe that this whole Quran is true? How do we believe our deen is true if Allah can lie? So therefore, to attribute anything, like for example, this is actually mentioned by a person, Khalil Ahmad Ambedkar, again, he was one of the leaders of the Deobandi school of thought, and Barahin al-Qati'ah, he wrote this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala jhoot bolne par qadir hai, that it is possible for Allah to lie. And Anwar Shah Kashmiri, book Fathul Bari, Sharh Sahih Bukhari, was a student of this person. He wrote that not only sirf jhoot hi nahi, lekin jo bura kaam insan kar sakta hai, Khuda bhi wo bura kaam kar sakta hai. That every bad thing a person can do, Allah can do that bad thing as well. So this is the sort of things that they related towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this indeed goes against the fundamentals of Tawheed. Yes.
Which sect are they?
The Deobandi school of thought. The Deobandi school of thought is a subdivision of the Wahhabiyya or the Khawarij. Yes.
You know, if the argument comes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's qudra is capable of doing everything,
Yeah.
and then they say then He is capable of lying also.
This is exactly the point that they use, that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is qadir, He is powerful, He is the all-powerful to do whatever He wishes, then He can lie as well. But what we say is to this, that to have this sort of thought, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, anything which is a hadith, anything which is bad, anything which is qabih, to refer this to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so lying or zina or drinking alcohol, these things which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made haram upon His creation, if Allah does the same, then nifaq comes. Nifaq is hypocrisy. For example, if I say to you not to do something and I do that myself, that makes me a hypocrite. So why would Allah, who is the Lord of everything, if Allah is that capable that they say that Allah can do that which is wrong as well, then does that mean Allah becomes a mazallah into this frame of hypocrisy? That what He refrains His nation to do, He does that Himself as well. So what Lord are we following? Are we following that Lord who tells us to do something else and He does that Himself? Whereas Allah says the kings of this world, they did that. For example, the kings like Pharaoh and others, that they told the people not to do things, but they did them themselves. They have many wives. Even today we see certain kings in Muslim countries that though Islam tells us to do something else, they have 100 wives. They drink alcohol. When they come to this country, they have one plane for themselves, a jet. They have one jet of their bodyguards, and they have one jet just full of alcohol. These are the people, the leaders of Saudi Arabia today, the kings. This is what they do. But the kings of this world are different to the king of all kings, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing wrong, nothing bad can be associated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That though Allah is the most powerful to do anything, but to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that powerful that He will do that thing which He has made His ummah stop them from doing, and He does that Himself, then that goes against the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that Lord, that He is pure from everything. But if you refer a animosity or if you refer any form of dirt towards Allah, then that purity goes. Then you are declining the whole lordship of Allah. So therefore, if you have takrar like that, something that goes against each other, then you have to look that the pinnacle is that Allah is pure. So how can any sort of defect or animosity be related towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That's not possible. The people who say this, they can be lying, they are lying themselves, but they are referring this lie to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be compared to His creation, because why? When we are seeing, we see, don't we? Allah sees. But what's the difference between our seeing and Allah seeing? We see, Allah is all seeing. We hear, Allah is all hearing. If we lie and we refer that to Allah, what does that mean? He is all lying. Does that mean everything Allah did was a lie? So therefore it's not possible for us to comprehend anything like that. And Allah Hazrat Rahmatullahi Ta'ala alayhi, Imam Ahmad Rida Khan alayhi rahmah, wrote a whole book upon this issue, upon those who believe the imkan al-kidhab, the possibility of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to lie. Not only Allah Hazrat, because this generated in his time, but before this our Imams have written upon this, that it is impossible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to lie. It is not possible. So not that capable and possible are two different things. But it is not possible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to lie. It is not mumkin. It is not mumkin for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to lie. And a person who has this belief, he is out of the fold of the Ahl Sunnah wal Jamaat. Yes.
But I don't understand how, because I've seen a talk on the internet, they actually use Quranic ayats and stuff to actually back the evidence. So what Quran are they following? What kind of understanding are they
Again,
following?
they follow that Quran according to them, which they take everything literally, and they mingle and tringle their own meanings out and try to prove something. Because what the problem now is that, for example now, that if my father or your father or anyone's father has done something, now you will try your level best to justify him. And if you think that, even though inside you know he's in wrong, but if you think if I say he's in wrong, then what am I left with? So to justify it. Now the problem is the mistake was made by their imams, their leaders. Now somehow, some way, if they believe that they have done wrong and what they believed was wrong, then their whole school of thought, their whole belief goes down the drain. Because the people who gave the foundations of their belief, if they were wrong and misguided, then how can they be guided? So now some way, somehow they try to justify what they said. For that, they take out other things and try to find a hadith, try to find the Quran, but they mingle and work around the meanings to try to give this justification. But no Quran, nowhere in the Quran, this is an open challenge to anyone, nowhere in the Quran does it say Allah can lie, nowhere in hadith does it say that Allah can do anything wrong like this. That's not possible to believe anything like this, and nowhere in the Quran does it say anything like this. This is the only sort of beliefs that they take out.
You got like a book or something where they actually said this, like you can bring down and like take a picture because
yeah, inshallah, next lecture that I come, I'll bring that book with me, or what I'll do is I'll online, I've got it as well on my I take a picture and I'll forward the email to Brother Abdullah Mustafa, and they can share with you. So next month when I come, I'll bring that with me as well, where they've written clearly in Ibrahim al-Qati'ah, page number 275. On page 52, Rashid Ahmad, Khalil Ahmad Ambedkari, he wrote that the knowledge of the Shaitan and Jibreel and Malik al-Maut, knowledge of Malik al-Maut, Israel, and the knowledge of Iblis, the Shaitan, is more than the knowledge of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. That's on page 52.
52.
And on page 275, Ghaliban, or 276, they wrote this point, that it is possible for Allah to lie. And in Rashid Ahmad Gangohi's Fatawa Rashidiyah in volume 1, he wrote that it is possible for Allah to lie. And I've got these ulama, so inshallah next time when I come, I've got the original text, original handwritten text, so not published on computers, handwritten from over 100 years old, the books I've got written. So I'll bring them, no one can deny them, no one will deny them. They'll come here next week, next month when I come, and I'll be here as well, and I can show them if they got a counter to that, they can counter it, try to, but there's no counter to that. We believe in that Allah, we believe in that Allah who created His messenger free from lying. We believe in that Allah who created His Anbiya, free from any defect. So how can the creator of them Anbiya who are free from defects have defects himself? So this is the difference between our belief and their belief. This is the difference between the Ahl Sunnah and their beliefs. Carrying on, the Sam' wa Basar and the Kalam which I mentioned in relation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the divine speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now I'll mention a few other, carrying on with this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, so how we believe in these attributes of Allah. that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the speech of Allah or the power of Allah and other things. Same with this, we remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all these attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they had no beginning, they had no end, they will have no end, they were always there. Allah was always the most powerful, He was always the most seeing, always the most hearing, in any way or form, and that is not comparable to the attributes He has given to any of His creation. He has given His creation the ability to hear and see as well. He has given the ability to His creation to speak as well. But our hearing, seeing, speaking is all created, whereas Allah's these attributes are all uncreated. That is the difference between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this was that point how Imam Bajuri and other Aimah have mentioned in relation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now carrying on, so the first point was in relation to believing in Allah. To believe in Allah. So this was all I mentioned to you now, was in relation to how we should believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now we spent 1 hour just on this, but if it was to be that we could just spend days and months just talking about the lafaz, the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we would not be able to complete. But in brief, what our belief should be. And now these words I've given you to learn in relation to Allah, wujud and qidam and baqa and mukhalifa lil hawadith and qudra, hayy, samu al basar, all these, you should learn these. So you should learn this. When someone stops you in the street and says to you that something about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you can counter him straight away and say, look, what I'm mentioning to you is what our Imams have written for 1400 years. That this is what we believe about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is what you should learn in these things as well. Yes.
Going back to, when you said all good and bad comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like in working, like some people ask, especially non-Muslim, they go, why do the bad things happen to all these innocent people? Why doesn't God intervene and, help? So how would you answer that question?
Basically, what our belief is that when we say all good and bad, again the word bad, a person would think that the word bad is referring to something bad to what we see as. Now, for example, if somebody is wealthier than another person, that does not mean that Allah has done something bad with the person who is not less wealthier. Though Allah in this world, Allah has given him less, but in another way He will reward that person more. Because we look at it in that sense, don't we? In that sense. Just like that, for example, some people are less fortunate than others in the sense that one person is disabled than another person is able, he is normal, another person is disabled, he can't do things that person does. But that Allah is the most adil. Allah is adil, He is the most just. Allah is the most just, and He is the judge of all judges. Where Allah refrains someone from one thing in this world, He gives him double that in the other world. So His justice always comes back to where it is. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what you deem to be bad upon you in this world, actually can be better for you in this world as well. It can be better for you as well. So the simple way to answer a question like this would be that this is Allah's justice and a test which Allah has placed upon His people. There were those people who had nothing, Allah tested them in them times. That do you still relate back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in times of need? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them. And He gives them more. If you don't give them in this life, He will give them in the hereafter. So that's the belief we have, the yaqeen we have. Those people who only believe in this world, like the atheists, they believe that there's only one life. So they say, if you have a God, why does He do this? So explain to them about the afterlife won't make sense to them. But amongst us, to make ourselves understand that if someone is less fortunate in this world, Allah gives him more and rewards him much more than we can even comprehend in the other world. So when we say good and bad, it refers to in that sense. And inshallah we can carry on, it comes to more in relation to that as well. So the first belief is in relation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what we should believe in relation to the oneness and the Tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how we, our scholars and others have related this to the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And referring back to Allah in Tawheed wise, that everything is, the whole focal point of our deen is to believe in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This indeed, the whole Quran explains this as well. And as we move forward, Mullah al-Qari and other Aimah have given a great explanation upon this, and inshallah we'll mention that as well. The second point is amantu billahi wa malaikatihi, to believe in all the angels, to believe in all His angels, to believe in all of Allah's angels. Now, what the majority of our scholars have agreed upon is that the angels, that they are all created free from committing sin, and can take different forms. They can take the forms of different things. Now, how some people in the Western world have they perceive angels to be big with wings and all these things. Yeah, that's just a perception. Well, we believe that the angels can take forms of other things, but they are created from light. They are created from light. And the creation mainly is in three types. You have Nuri creation, light creation, like the angels. You have the Nari creation, which is created from fire, like jinns. And then you have those which are created from Ma and Teen, water and clay, which is human beings like us, bodies, Bashariya. So the angels, they take different forms. Like in the Quran, it mentions when Jibreel came to Isa alayhi salam, the mother of Isa alayhi salam, Maryam, and he said that Allah will give you a son. The Quran mentions a man came to Maryam. A man came to Maryam. And in this hadith which I mentioned to you earlier about hadith of Jibreel, it says that a man came to the Messenger and asked him these questions. And no one knew who he was. As Umar says, no one knew who this person was. He was a man. After the Messenger died, that you know who this man was? This man literally, in reality, was Jibreel alayhi salam. So we say Jibreel, who is created from light, and it's an angel of Allah. If Jibreel can come in the form of a man to us, then why can't the Messenger who is created from light come in the form of a man also? So this is another point as well. But again, coming back to his angels, to believe in all the angels, this is also a necessary belief for us to believe in all his angels. Now, amongst his angels, the leader of all the angels is Jibreel. Jibreel is the main angel. Jibreel, both words are used, is the main angel. Now, what is the duty of this angel Jibreel? And the duty of Jibreel alayhi salam is that to transmit the message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to his prophets. To transmit the message from Allah to his prophets. Like we see, the Quran was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, but through Jibreel alayhi salam. So the job of Jibreel is to reveal the message from Allah to the Anbiya, to the prophets. Now in one hadith it also comes, خُلِقَ جِبْرِيلُ لِخِدْمَةِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. In one narration comes that Jibreel was created for the service of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as a servant for the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But the main job of Jibreel is to transmit the message from Allah to his messengers. Now someone can say, some people say that Jibreel alayhi salam is more educated in Ma'azallah than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why? Because the Quran which was given to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was given through Jibreel. But the common misunderstanding that they don't see, a Rasul is somebody who transmits a message. For example, now if I have this paper closed and I give this to one of you and I say, and if I give it to Mustafa and I say give this to Abdullah, and Abdullah opens and reads it, what I wrote I know, and Abdullah who opens it, he knows what's in it. Mustafa in between, he just gave it from me to him. What's in there is not for him to know. So Jibreel's job was to give the message from Allah to his messenger. What was in that message only Allah and Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam know. That was between them. This is a basic logical understanding in relation to that we know that the Prophet's knowledge amongst all of Allah's creation, including his angels, most was given to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Just a quick question. You know when the first revelation came, when people say that Jibreel said Iqra, read.
And the Prophet never read.
Commonly in English translate, people say that the Prophet said, I can't read. Is that true or not?
When the hadith in Sahih Bukhari mentions that the Hazrat Jibreel alayhi salam came to the Prophet and said, Iqra, read. And the Prophet said, I will not read. Not I cannot read, I will not read. Why? And then the Jibreel said, Iqra again. When Jibreel said, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, Ya Rasulullah, read in the name of your Lord who created you. Then the Prophet read, showing that I will not even read without taking the name of my Lord. And I will not accept anything that where the name of my Lord is not mentioned first. So when Jibreel said, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, read in the name of your Lord, then the Prophet read. And to this extent that Jibreel Islam, he came and he hugged the Prophet and he squeezed the Prophet. And to the extent that Hadith mentions that Jibreel squeezed the Prophet so much that Jibreel Islam began to sweat. Jibreel began to sweat. And do you know the power of Jibreel? Now Hadith says that Jibreel Islam has got 2 wings. Each wing contains 40,000 small wings. And each one of them small wings is bigger than the whole of the earth, that can cover the whole earth. One small wing, amongst them 40,000, which makes one. And two is what Jibreel has got. That Jibreel, with all that power, he tries to hug the Prophet ﷺ and use his power, and he begins to sweat himself. So if that's the power of Jibreel, what would be the power of the Prophet ﷺ? And the one relation comes out on the night of Mi'raj, the Prophet ﷺ, as a, like, you know, when he's pushed someone, just as a like little joke, or move out the way. The Prophet ﷺ did that to Jibreel, and Jibreel's legs shook and he's about to fall. So this was a small push of the Prophet ﷺ. So how much power has Allah given the hand of the Prophet ﷺ? That when he was to use his own power. That's why Allah says in the Quran, وَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. The O Prophet ﷺ, when you threw the sand, the dust towards the kuffar, you did not throw. O Prophet ﷺ, when you threw, you did not throw. In reality, Allah threw from your hand. So in the hand of the Prophet ﷺ, Allah has injected His own power into the hand of the Prophet ﷺ. So to say this, the Prophet said, I cannot read, that's not right, because the Prophet ﷺ said, I will not read. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, if we say the Prophet was uneducated, or could not read, or could not recite, then what are we pointing questions towards? Why do people say these things? The Prophet ﷺ, when Allah says in the Quran, Ar-Rahmanu allama al-Quran, that Allah the most merciful, He taught the Quran to His beloved. So when Allah is the teacher and the Prophet ﷺ is the student, what could be a better combination than that? And who could be more educated than that? There is no teacher better than Allah, and there is no student better than the Prophet ﷺ. And the knowledge Allah had to give, He gave. And the most knowledge He gave, so that means the Prophet couldn't read and we can read, or we can recite. And does that mean, Mazallah, that we are more educated than the Prophet ﷺ? And one person by the name of Zaid Mahmood, who's a Diyabandi in Birmingham, he actually said that the students of today could recite better than the Prophet ﷺ. So these people who are misguided, who are uneducated themselves, they point the finger at that personality, who Allah is saying that the crown of the most knowledgeable people in this universe is the Prophet ﷺ. That who I have blessed the most knowledge is the Prophet ﷺ, and pointing a finger at that Prophet ﷺ who says that Allah has compressed the whole earth for me, and I can see it like I see the palm of my hand. The way you see the palm of your hand, I can see the whole earth, universe like that. So that is the Prophet ﷺ which we follow. Going back to the point, so believing in all the angels. The Jibreel's main job was to transmit messages from Allah to his prophets. The second angel we see is Israfil, main angel. Israfil, I'll just give you the name of a few main angels. Israfil, he is the angel which will blow the horn on the Day of Judgment. He will blow the horn, so when he blows the horn, that's when the Day of Judgment will begin. He's the second angel. The third angel is Israel. Israel's job is to, known as Malik al-Maut, the angel of death, the one who will come to take your soul out on the Day of Judgment. In your life, whenever the time comes for you to die, this angel will come to take out your soul. And then you have Mikael. Mikael's job is to control the weather. The weather is controlled by Mikael. These are the four main angels. Then you have these are the four main archangels. So amongst all of Allah's angels, these are the four greatest angels. And then other than these, the famous angels which we should know are the Kiramun Katibin. The Kiramun Katibin are the two angels which write your deeds on your shoulders. The left and right shoulder, you have an angel always who writes your good deeds, and one who writes your bad deeds. Everything you do, good and bad, is written, and that is presented on the Day of Judgment to be weighed of what you did. They are known as Kiramun Katibin. And then the other two angels we have Munkar and Nakir. Munkar and Nakir are Nakirain, known as a short. Munkar and Nakir are them two angels who will ask you the questions in your grave. That when you go to your grave, they will ask you the questions. They are known as Munkar and Nakir. These are the main angels which you should be aware of. There are other angels as well and names as well, now what jobs they have, duties they have, but the main common angels are these. How many angels there are, we do not know. To the extent that the Prophet said that every day 70,000 angels in the morning and 70,000 angels in the evening come and recite salutations upon me at my grave. In Medina Sharif they come to recite Durood upon the Prophet 70,000 in the morning, 70,000 in the evening, and the angel who comes once, he will never have the opportunity to come back again. So can you imagine 140,000 daily come and they will never come back again. And that's been happening for 1400 years and will continue to happen until the judgment, that the angels will send Durood upon the Prophet there. That does not mean only them 70,000 will send Durood upon the Prophet ﷺ, but when you see the Quran, it says, Inna Allaha wa malaikatahu, that indeed Allah and every single one of His angels send Durood upon the Prophet ﷺ. So that what Allah and His angels do, every believer should also send salutations upon the Prophet ﷺ. So to believe in all His angels, and these are the main of His angels, so I'll just quickly finish off now. Next thing is, to amantu billahi wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi, to believe in all His divine scriptures. To believe in all the divine scriptures. So the word kutub means books literally. Kutub means books. What we believe in also is suhaf. Suhaf is meaning for scripture. So some Anbiya, Rasuls were not given a full book, they were given chapters, scriptures. But we believe in the books and the scriptures. That's what we must believe in. The total amount of scriptures which were given, mentioned here by Mullah al-Qadri, is 104. 104 scriptures were given to the messengers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On 104, 10 were revealed to Adam alayhi salam, 10 were given to Adam alayhi salam, 52 has the Sheikh alayhi salam, 32 has the Idris alayhi salam, 10 to Ibrahim alayhi salam, the Torah to Musa alayhi salam, the Tawrat to Musa alayhi salam, the Zabur to Dawood alayhi salam, the Injil to Isa alayhi salam, and the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These are all 104 scriptures which you must believe in. And out of these 104, the 4 kutub, 4 books are the last 4 which I mentioned. The Tawrat, the Zabur, Injil and Quran. 111 were revealed to these Anbiya. Previous to that, 100 were revealed, 10, 50, 30, 10, 10 to these Anbiya, which completes the number 104.
You know the 50 scriptures, which prophet were they revealed to?
Sheath.
So you mentioned Mullah al-Qadri a few times. Who is it?
Mullah al-Qadri was a muhaddis, a great imam, a Hanafi imam, a muhaddis, and has written many different works upon hadith, including Mirqat al-Mafatih, the Sharh of Mishkat al-Musabi, who came over 400-500 years ago from today, and he's written one explanation of Fiqh Al-Akbar, one of many. He was a great imam, and amongst the Ahl Sunnah, unanimously we agree him to be a great scholar of hadith and a great scholar of Aqida as well. I think we'll finish there for today, and inshallah next month we will carry on from where we are. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our efforts coming here today, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to practice what we have said today. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينُ.